Hi everyone, my name is Jaden and I talk about animation industry career advice. So if you'd like to learn tips about how to perfect your portfolio or how to network or just how to go about navigating the worlds of animation, make sure to subscribe to my channel for future videos. Today we are joined by the next guest in my interview series, Janice Acevedo, who is an audio engineer for Network Nexus Studios. Within the plethora of roles that there are within the animation industry, audio tends to be one of those niche, less talked about categories. So for anyone interested in pursuing the audio side of animation, whether that be in Foley work or audio engineering, voiceover, composition, hopefully this interview will provide some insight for you. That being said, I'm really excited for Janice to share her expertise with us. So as usual, let's kick things off with an introduction. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what made you pursue this path.
My name is Janice Acevedo. I am currently in Florida. I am a recent graduate from the Florida Institute of Recording Sound and Technology, or First Institute for short. I essentially got started through YouTube. I had my channel since 2012, but I didn't really start posting anything until 2014. So yeah, I was probably like a sophomore in high school. I started with doing like comic dubs based on my favorite shows at the time, my favorite cartoons. My Little Pony Friendship is Magic was one of them. Miraculous Ladybug was the real big one. I started doing anime comic dubs for some of my favorite anime, one of them mainly being My Hero Academia, which is a big one. I didn't really start watching anime until like 2016, so that was interesting. But it's essentially gathering my friends. I have them like record their voice lines. And over time, they started out kind of, kind of as the years went by. I eventually got better. I started adding sound effects, music, started kind of somewhat animating the comics themselves with by using like Photoshop and After Effects and all that type of stuff. So it's essentially YouTube that made me realize, you know what? This is kind of what I want to do for a career because I love directing voice actors. I love guiding them to giving their best performances. And honestly, I just like editing audio together in general. I did try voice acting for a little bit, but I realized it wasn't my thing. I actually had way more fun editing than voice acting. So, yeah, that's essentially how I started.
It's funny that you mentioned that because I also had a point in time in high school where I really wanted to be a voice actor, and I took a couple of theater classes as well. I was a theater kid for a little point in time. But, similarly, I also really enjoy directing others in their performance as well.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
What can you tell us about your current role at Nexus Studios and how you got there? Tell us a little bit about Network Nexus.
The studio I work for, it's an indie animation studio. It's called Network Nexus Studios. They actually started during the pandemic. So it's a relatively new, started in 2020. We specialize in animation, games, podcasts like radio plays, pretty much like animated type content or audio type content, not so much live action, at least not as of yet. We also specialize in graphic design as well, bit of music too, composing music. How I got there was essentially 2 months after I had graduated. I had a friend of mine who worked at the studio. He's the casting director there. He messaged me and he was like, hey, if you're interested in looking for a job, the studio I work for is hiring, maybe you should apply. So I did. July, I got the interview and they were impressed with me so much that I actually became a director of one of their departments, the sound design department, or pretty much a majority of their post-production department.
One thing that I did mention in one of my previous videos is the importance of networking. So it's awesome that you got to meet someone in that field who was able to give you that little gentle nudge in the right direction.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
In your own words, how would you break down the distinction between different roles in the audio department? Like mixing sound in post versus directing the voice actors or creating those Foley sound effects.
There's quite a bit. So composing is obviously like scoring music. So there's that. There's ADR, which is kind of dubbing or looping, which is another term for it. There's voice acting, which obviously explains itself. There's sound design and Foley, which the difference between Foley and sound design is that sound design, you make new sounds with already existing sound effects, like from a sound library. Whereas with Foley, it's sounds that you make yourself, like using different objects and things to make a whole new type of sound. Yeah, there's mixing and mastering. Mixing is basically trying to make sure all the levels of audio are evened out, so they're not getting all muddied together. Basically, not sounding like crap. Make sure you hear everything at an even pace. I'm not even sure if that's the right way to go to say it.
You mean like, for example, if a character is talking and walking at the same time, maybe like the crunching of their footsteps, not being overpowered by the dialogue that they're saying?
One's not overtaking the other.
Exactly. Again, not a lot of people know the difference between Foley and sound design. I mean, I didn't. I just learned that right now.
Yeah, that's the main difference. Yeah,
So, out of all the roles that we discussed, which one in particular is your personal favorite? What part of audio engineering do you enjoy the most?
definitely ADR. ADR is my beloved. I love ADR so much. Sound design is a close second, but ADR is my go-to.
And just for our audience, what does ADR stand for?
ADR stands for Automated Dialogue Replacement. That's what that stands for.
Got it. I've only heard of ADR mostly in live action, not so much in animation. I know sometimes there's like maybe a piece of dialogue that was missing, or they just have to like record it afterwards and add it in post.
Yeah. It's mainly not so much used for Western animation. It's more so for like foreign animation, like anime, because it's in another language and you gotta translate it into like English or Spanish or whatever kind of language it's gonna be in. So that's what ADR is.
Oh, so like it can match the, the mouth movements?
You gotta match the lip flaps as best as possible, as best as you can. It's not like in the older anime where it's like lips don't match the movements at all. It's like what I've currently been doing. I'm currently working on my own ADR reel. And sometimes as we're doing the session, everything goes well. But sometimes as I'm editing, I notice like, oh, it's not matching the lip flaps as well, or maybe their mic is like popping in some place, and you hear like the crackling sound for like a split second. You're like, ooh, that's not gonna go over well. So then I'd have to like contact the voice actor, like, hey, we can we schedule to re-record this because this is happening and all that type of stuff. But yeah, it's fun all around. I mean, my voice actors who have been helping me out with my demo reel, they've been having a blast. Some of them have never done ADR before, so this is like their first taste of it. At least they're getting to know the basics of doing like ADR in a professional environment.
Oh my god, when you mentioned the popping of the mic, it reminds me of like the worst thing when you're sitting there recording. It's like, I hate that sound.
Not even like smacking sounds. Have you ever heard like a speaker like pop? Basically that, but it's like in the actual audio file. So you're like, oh no. It's yeah. It's the best part, but sometimes it's like, why? Why are you like this? Now I gotta do it all over. But it's fun nonetheless.
Earlier, you mentioned having been on YouTube for over a decade. So, how has social media helped influence your work? Would you say it was a huge benefit in helping you land job opportunities?
Obviously, I've been doing this for years. I was surprised by over that time how many subscribers I've managed to gain. I think the real key is to upload as frequently as you can. Obviously, I haven't been able to as of late because I think the last thing I posted was like 3 months ago with all the projects that I've been a part of or currently in talks to be a part of. I'm really surprised with Twitter because thanks to Twitter, sometimes I would post like casting calls on there like, hey, I need certain voice actors for this character for a thing I'm working on. That's how I actually got to meet a couple voice actors who have been working in the industry. Specifically, voice actors who have been in a few anime that I have seen, like my friend Marissa Duran. I don't know if you've ever seen Hori Mia, but she plays Hori in that. And there's Bell, my friend Bell. He's also in Horimiya. He's been in My Hero Academia. But yeah, with Twitter, I'm actually surprised that I actually got to meet actual industry professionals through that. recently, this is for Instagram specifically, I got to talk to a voice actor that I absolutely adore. I don't believe he does as much anime as he used to anymore. He's more into like video games and he's more like writing and producing content. He was in one of the very first anime that I have watched, which was Princess Tutu. He played for Kira in that. And so I was actually very, very surprised when I randomly just found him on Instagram and I decided to follow him. And then, like, 2 minutes later, he followed me back, and I was like, whoa, what is happening? What is happening? And he and I just started talking, and I told him, hey, I'm an audio graduate, and I would love to work with you someday on like a future project or something. And he said, who knows? Maybe you will. So I don't know if something's going to come of that in the future or not, but I'm keeping my fingers crossed there. So I would say social media has a big part to play when it comes to getting into this type of industry, animation or audio, any type of field in the entertainment industry in general. It's really important for you to like post things that you have been doing on social media, even if it's not something professional that you've done, even if it's just like for fun, like something you do in your free time, just like post it, like showcase your skills, get feedback on it, see what you can do better, what you can add to it, what you can maybe take out in the future. Social media, very important. LinkedIn, very, very important. I've met quite a few people through LinkedIn on there. So post on social media. Social media is very important in this industry and getting your work out there.
Yeah, like social media has basically become a networking tool nowadays.
Absolutely, yeah.
What advice would you have for anyone looking to demonstrate their proficiency in this area of work? Like how does one build a portfolio or resume for audio?
Building a portfolio, I'd say if you've done any audio projects in school, post them on Vimeo, post them on Instagram, post them on Twitter. If you have like your own website or portfolio site, post them on there. Even post some pieces that you've done in your free time. If they're not like official, just post them, showcase your skills, and keep practicing. There's no end to audio, there's no end to what you can do with audio, especially with sound design. There's limitless things you could do with sound design. Sometimes you might want to try things outside what you're doing. Like for me, I am actually trying my hand at screenwriting, or writing has been kind of a hobby of mine on the side. So I think screenwriting is something I would like to do like outside of audio, because audio is fun and I love it. But sometimes you want to change a pace.
On that note, what are some free options or accessible software that you could recommend for any beginners just looking to start out?
I have quite a few DAWs. So I use Pro Tools, which is the industry standard. Before using Pro Tools, I used Adobe Audition a lot. I love Adobe Audition. I still use it more for like my YouTube stuff more than like professional type stuff. Studio One is a DAW that I believe is firmly underrated. It's free. You don't have to pay for it. It's a free DAW. I also have Reaper, but if I'm honest, Reaper is not one of my favorites. I have it. If I need to use it, I'll use it, but it's not really my favorite. So I'd say either get Pro Tools or Studio One or Adobe Audition. Those are my three recommendations for DAWs, for audio.
This is another one I thought of too, but would you say GarageBand might be a possible option too? I know it's mostly for music, but
I wouldn't say that's like an industry standard type of thing to use. I feel like that's more for like your free time. If you're doing music as like a hobby, I'd say if you're doing it specifically for music, Studio One or Logic. Logic is another one. When I interned at studio while I was in school, Matt, who was interning me, he used Logic while I used Pro Tools. So I'd say if you're going for music based, go for Logic.
Logic Pro is definitely more robust, that's for sure. As someone who does a lot of freelance work, how do you determine your rates or how much to charge for your services?
Honestly, it depends on the project. For voice acting demo reels, I have them pretty much into sections. So there's narration, which is basically just the voice actor speaking, probably with a little bit of music in it. That's 75. Like my cheapest is 75 and it goes up to 150. 75 for narration, it's 100 for commercial, and then it's 150 for animation character or video game demo reels. So The narration demo is just like the voice, maybe a little bit of vocal cleanup with a bit of music. Commercial, it's vocal editing, cleanup, ambiance, couple sound effects here and there, and music. And then for like animation character video games, it's like all the stuff. So you got vocal cleanup, ambiance, complete sound design if needed, maybe even vocal effects. So if you're doing like a robot type voice, you get a robot effect on your voice and music. So I usually get the clients who want their animation demo reel done, not so much narration or commercial as of yet anyway. I usually get like commissions for voiceover video game animation demo reels for voice actors.
And would you say those rates are on a project basis or more of like per minute of dialogue that or sound that you might be editing?
When it comes to like sound design, depending on the project, so it's per project. It could vary. If it's like for like an animated short and it's like 5 minutes, it's probably like by minute at that point for that one. So it depends on the project itself.
Well, I mean, thank you for letting us know. I think it's important, especially for anyone who wants to freelance, to have some sort of ballpark of how much to charge for their work. Last but not least, where can our viewers find you on social media?
They can reach out to me on Instagram. My Instagram is Janice underscore Marie underscore audio, which is my initials, but instead of my last name, it's audio. For my Twitter, it's Janice underscore M underscore audio. And then I also do have a website where I post some of the stuff I've worked on there. My website is called janicemarieaudio.com. So you can check me out there. I offer services on there. I do like demo reel commissions. I do video editing. I do ADR type stuff, sound design. I do all types of services on there. So check me out.
Well, thank you so much for coming on to my channel.
Thank you for having me.
I'll be providing links down below to Janice's work if you want to check it out, as well as the socials and info of Network Nexus Studios, the softwares we talked about, and any additional resources that might be useful to you. If you like this video, please remember to give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe and stick around for future interviews and the continuation of this series. Until next time, see you all in the next video. Bye!
Bye.